Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are you all doing? This morning, we are, I don't know if, it's kind of hazy. Like, I could look at the sun and not go blind. I don't know if that's just haze or if it's Canadian smoke. It kind of looks like Canadian smoke. But either way, here we are, and we're gonna go for a drive. We're gonna start on East Cavalry Field. I had to go to Walmart for a couple things for the puppy. And now we're gonna go over to East Cavalry Field since we're near there. Good morning, Andy. And let me straighten that out a touch. Point that down a bit. There we go. And from East Cavalry Field, the world is our oyster. Wherever we want to go, we'll go. And got about a quarter of a tank of gas left, so we'll see how much of that we can waste. By the way, the gas and this show is brought to you by our patrons over at patreon.com/AddressingGettysburg. And apparently, I didn't realize this until a couple videos ago, but there's a way to donate money towards Gas-a-Haul. So research things a little bit more. Anyway, here we go. We're on Route 30 heading east. For those of you who like to know the roads that we're on, we're about to cross over Route 15, US 15, and that goes north and or south, depending on where you want to go, I guess. And here we go. So we're going to now East Cavalry Field. So if you go out of town east on Route 30, you can get to East Cavalry Field. You want to go past the Gateway, Gettysburg. Wyndham is. There's a movie theater or a theater. I'm going to try to get around this truck because I hate slow-moving vehicles. There we go. We did it. We did it, guys. And then you're going to see the Harley-Davidson dealership. And you're going to make a right turn. And in case you forget the detail about the dealership, the name of the road is Cavalry Field Road. So if that's not a clue for you, you shouldn't be driving. Okay, so moving right along. Let me say good morning, Dave. Hey, Dave, are you available later this morning for a catch-up phone call? Not a phone call covered in ketchup, but I mean a catch-up phone call. Good morning, Oswald. Well, it's atmosphere because it doesn't smell smoky yet, but I also have a terrible sense of smell. Now, so East Cavalry Field for cell service isn't always the best for me, so interruptions, we might not. Who knows? Maybe the smoke does something in here that, see what I mean? There was an interruption already. So, yeah, I don't know where it interrupted, but so here's something I like. For those of you who are like me, like old road beds and stuff, the road that I just came in on originally went there. That's the old farm lane. And then I don't know if the road also veered this way. Might have. I'm not sure. But I know that is the old farm lane, as I was told by one James Hessler, licensed battlefield guide and podcaster extraordinaire. Also author. Or as my little cousin once called it when he was learning to talk, Arthur. If only I could remember which little cousin that was. Might have been all of them. We're not a bunch of rocket scientists in my family. Okay, so we're on Stewart's line here now. I think this is Jackson's battery. Is this Jackson's battery? No, McGregor. Sorry, Jackson's up here, I believe. Or maybe I'm turned around. I don't really know a lot about East Cavalry Field. I need to study it more. I need to study, period. So here, yeah, that's Jackson's battery. The howitzers. So as you can see, some corn is growing to the left here on the screen. I like the years when very few farmers are planting corn because you can see more. Especially on the main part of the battlefield. You know, there's some years where like every field has corn in it, and you're like, oh. So. Finally, I made it out to East Cavalry Field after my 5th trip to Gettysburg. So, was that this past trip that you were out, Michael, or? Does this shot seem blurry to you? Get out of this guy's way here. Hell is for the way you look at me. Good morning. Listening to Andy Hart, says Mitchell Randall. Listen to Andy Hart. Oh, is that what came out today? Was it the religion in the Civil War episode over on Patreon? Yeah, I found that very interesting, that conversation. The more I learn about the Civil War and that period of time, like nothing was to have been, just normal. Everything seemed to be in a state of upheaval, including religion, and I just found it very fascinating. Talking to Andy. I like talking to Andy about that stuff. We're going to do an episode, I don't know if it's scheduled or not yet, but we're going to do an episode about the Lost Cause with him. And I'm trying to get some other people to join us, like Jen Murray and whoever the hell else, maybe P. Carmichael, whoever else would like to do it. Oh, by the way, for those of you who are interested in the JFK assassination, we're all Getty's nerds, of course. So this year is a big year for us because it's the 160th anniversary of the battle, but it's also the 60th anniversary of the JFK assassination. And I thought, how once in a while, like we did with Jim Hessler, we did the Little Bighorn episode. Excuse me. Took me by surprise. I like to keep my own mind interested and working. I like to do these one-offs every once in a while so that I don't get bored with the subject matter. And so I invited Matt Borders and Pat McGuire from the History Things podcast to come on the show, and we're going to do a live stream to callers. And I think this is going to be a long one because this is something I could go on and on about for days, and I'm sure Pat and Matt could. I know Pat can go on and on for days about anything, so between the two of us it'll probably be an hour and a half of just he and I talking, and then Matt whenever he gets a chance jumping in as well. But also I had dinner last night with Jen Murray and Michael Walker, and we got to just talking about history and things that we're interested in, and JFK came up, and Jen Murray, she's like, that was my first history thing. Before I got into the Civil War, I was all into JFK. And I said, well, are you conspiracy side or are you Oswald did it alone side? And she's like, oh, definitely conspiracy. And I said, okay, good. yeah, I need you to come on the show because Pat, Matt, and I are all Oswald did it alone guys. We used to be conspiracy guys, and then we, I don't know how Pat and Matt came around to Oswald, but like I came around to it because I don't like to be played the fool. I mean, it happens, but I try very hard to protect against that, which is why I don't, you've heard me talk about politics, and I'm not a member of any party. I don't watch the news. And if I do, I try to find that same story from the opposing biased news channel or whatever. So in other words, if I come across an article from Fox News, the truth lies. And so, or in my mind at least, but I can't read one article and take it as gospel truth, etc. Anyway, so I was like, okay, I've seen the movie JFK. I've watched every documentary I could find that makes a case for some conspiracy, and they're all pretty compelling. What possibly could the pro-Oswald people have to make the case that the government was right about Oswald doing it? And there was a book I found called Case Closed by Pot at like 25 years ago maybe. And I was like, oh, well, the conspiracy theorists didn't tell me about that detail. Or they told me this, but they omitted this part that came before it, and that makes all the difference. And then I've seen a couple of documentaries. There's a good one on Amazon Prime called Truth is the Only Client. And I think there's another one that I've watched. I can't remember the name of it, but I'll mention it on the show. Anyway, they make the case that Oswald did it alone. And something I've noticed is that there's far more documentation to support Oswald as the lone gunman than there is anything with the conspiracy theorists. Because what the conspiracy theorists have to do, we're on 116, by the way, and we're turning on 15 South. I'm going to try to avoid town. Anyway, what the conspiracy theorists do is they cherry pick information. So they'll find a, unclassified government document, say from the CIA or whatever, and they'll go through it, and there will be, for example, that the CIA had a file on Oswald, and they point to that as evidence that Oswald was a CIA operative, and therefore the CIA had something to do with the assassination. Now, I know new documents came out that kind of say the CIA had something to do with it, but again, I haven't looked at those yet myself, and so I've only heard on news reports, and that's through the filter of someone else, so I don't want to go by that entirely. Anyway, what they do is that everyone who defected to Russia has a file, just like Oswald. And they also don't tell you that the CIA thought Oswald was a loser. So did the KGB. And, so, like, little things like that. Like, so what they'll do is they'll say, well, the CIA had a file on Oswald, and they leave it at that. And then, so what that does is they make it sound suspicious, and the implication is, if they don't outright say it, that Oswald was a CIA operative, and therefore, he was a hired assassin. Yet at the same time, those very conspiracy theorists are going to say to you, Oswald had Maggie's drawers, which means he wasn't a good shot. So why would the CIA, but nobody ever says, well, wait a second, if he had Maggie's drawers, why would the CIA, of all people, pick that guy to assassinate JFK? And then so there's a whole bunch of things that really, if you just kind of sit and think about it, don't make a lot of sense from the conspiracy side of things. So we're going to do an episode on YouTube the History Things guys, Jen Murray and myself, on November 22nd, probably around 7 post-meridian. And we encourage you, if you're into that stuff, to tune in and call in, think about different things. Now, I'll tell you this. You can, if you are conspiratorial, make your case. We want to hear your case. Why do you think there was a big conspiracy involving, let me start from the top down, LBJ, the CIA, the FBI, the Secret Service, Cuba, the USSR, the mafia, and I think the janitor at the building across the street from the school book depository. Why do you think that highly implausible gaggle of people conspiring to kill one man? Like, let's take the CIA, for example. Well, forget it. I'm not arguing this with it now. But my point is, we want to hear it. But remember, you're not going to change my mind, or Pat's mind, I'm sure, because Pat and I are both stubborn Irish boys. And once we've made up our mind, that's it. And we came from your school. We came from the conspiracy side of things. So it's pretty safe bet that we're going to stay as Oswald, the lone gunman fellas. So, yeah, but we would love the sport of lively debate with you if you want to do that. So, I hate to look forward to November because it's, that's when the ugly weather starts. But, you got to plan these things ahead of time, and you got to promote them as well and everything like that. So we're going to do that on November 22nd, 7 p.m. live on YouTube, and we hope you join us because it's going to be a lot of fun. Jen Murray, so Michael Walker, Jen Murray, they're married, and we've been having dinner with Veronica and Kathy and Cindy, my girlfriend, for a few weeks now. Every Sunday night we go and have dinner, and we have a lot of fun. Mostly we laugh, but we talk history. We talk, about the history field, and it's a good time. It's a good time. Make friends. Okay, so let me just pull in here to the lot. I saw some comments flying up there, and they were verbose. Run off trying to read them while driving. All right, let's see. Good morning, Matt. No, it's working finally. Okay, good morning. Listen, yep, got that. Yes, went out there on the 4th after doing the walks. Okay, nice. Yes, good stuff. Okay, thank you. Dave, Lost Cause interview is 8:16. I'll reach out and invite Jen Murray. Yeah, so we might have to change that because I think she's leaving the area for Oklahoma on the 14th. We'll talk on the phone, Dave, after this if you have time. I didn't see if you answered me on that one. You didn't. Okay. Good morning. A little blurry. Yeah, I wonder why is that? I can't get it to focus. Sorry about that. What if I did that and then... No, what if I did that? Oh, well. Anyway, let's see what we got. Jumpmaster says, Alan R. Thompson would be a good guest in the Shadow of the Round Tops. Already in the works, actually. That reminds me, Dave, I got his card during the anniversary. I met him. So remind me to give you that when we talk later. Michael Stump, JFK was also my first main history interest as well. Wrote papers in high school and college on it whenever I had to write a persuasive essay. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. The assassination of a chief executive is, thank God, a rare thing in our country. But just, it kind of boggles the mind. Like, how is someone able to do that? But the JFK thing is more fascinating to me now because the conspiracy theorists have so muddied the water that I don't think anybody really truly knows what to make of the whole thing. And so you got to kind of go back to verifiable facts on that day. And really, to me, because I believe that psychology is the at the foundation of everything, whether it's a massive historical event or, a small mundane thing that you do in your everyday life, like psychology, obviously, not psychology, the study of the psyche, but like the psyche has everything to do with what we do and why we do it. And so the key to understanding Oswald and what really tells me that he did it is his mother and his upbringing. And he was a mama's boy who I think really wanted to not be a mama's boy, and he wanted to be his own person. But his mom was so crazy that she made him crazy and desperate to be known and loved and respected, that he latched on to these loser philosophies like Marxism, and he got these loser ideas of, like radical ideas like assassinating people. Not many people know that I think it was April of 1963, he tried to make a name for himself by assassinating a General Walker, who lived down in Texas with him, or near him. And he tried to shoot him through his window when he was doing his taxes in his office. He missed. I think maybe some glass might have, put some superficial cuts on the cheek of the General, but he was a right-winger, the General, and Oswald was a Marxist. I think he called himself a Marxist-Leninist. By the way, Marx and Lenin were fucking insane. They were nuts. And so, only a nut would follow the philosophy of nuts. And so, anyway, but he didn't kill him. It did make the news, but it wasn't, this big, huge national splash like JFK was. And so, like, the only person that knew that he did it was Marina, because he told her he was proud of himself. And he was a nut. He had a wife and a baby. I think he had 2 kids by that point, or another one on the way. And this is what he's doing. Like, he was a loser and a lunatic. And you got to understand his pre-assassination life to understand the assassination and why he would do it. And I that's one of the reasons why I think he totally did it. All right, what else? Tom Cannon. Good morning, everyone. Conspiracies. Yes, they are fun. Jack Ruby, who let him in the police station. Okay, good one, James. He walked in. So think of today, and then forget everything you know about getting into a police station. It wasn't hard. First of all, it was the parking garage. He was known by the police. He was a businessman, but he was also corrupt, and the police were corrupt, and they knew him because of his nightclub, and he probably did a lot of favors for them and with the girls and things like that. So they knew him there. He walked in and out of that police station freely all the time, long before Oswald killed JFK. They were taking Oswald out into the parking garage to load him up and transport him, or transfer him. He just walked in off the street. Jack Ruby that day went to Western Union to send a telegram to one of the dancers who worked for him, who needed an advance. Not a telegram, excuse me, Western Union, to wire money. And it was down the street from the police station, and I think he had heard that they were transporting Oswald, and he had decided to walk down there. Now, here's a little detail. He had this little frou-frou puppy, or not puppy, but dog, like one of those Paris Hilton dogs that fit in your purse. And he loved this dog. He adored this dog. He had the dog in the car with him. When he went into the parking garage, he left the dog in the car. Now, Jack Ruby's also kind of a nut. And you could say, well, crazy people wouldn't care about the well-being of the dog and, whatever. Yeah, I think that might not necessarily be true. Everybody loves somebody sometime. And I think crazy people can love something or someone, or think they do. They get fixated on them or something like that. So I don't think he woke up that morning and he said, I'm going to go and shoot Lee Harvey Oswald. He had a gun on him because it's Texas. Everybody has a gun on him. And it was the 1960s, so probably more people had guns on him back then. And I think he just was enraged. Or he wanted to make a name for himself, either way. And then he started squeaking about, if only you knew, all of the powers that be and everything. Yes, it's like OJ trying to find the real killers. Like, people say shit when they're in trouble. You do something in an act of passion, and then the adrenaline and the passion and all that stuff wears away, and you go, oh my God, what did I do? And then you realize you just threw your whole life away. And yeah, you're going to muddy up the water. You're going to say a whole bunch of crazy things so that people have a doubt that you might have been the guilty party. So I don't think the Jack Ruby thing is proof of anything. In my opinion, you can disregard all of the JFK conspiracy theories, but the one thing that makes me believe there was a conspiracy is a Zapruder film, and JFK's head. Oh, Back into the Left. I love Back into the Left, Jim. So this is going to be a video show, and I'm going to have the Zapruder film that's like super slow mode, and I'm going to show you why Back into the Left is misleading. And also, let's think about this. When Back into the Left became the thing, it was the 1960s. They had the film. They didn't have the technology, or maybe they did have the technology, but they didn't use the technology that we have today, where we were able to not only clean up the quality of the video, and I think this was about 10 years ago. I think this came out for the 50th anniversary. We were able to clean up the quality of the picture and super slow-mo it, like super duper, frame by frame. And you can see, and I will show you this, you can see before his head goes back into the left, it moves forward for like a millisecond as the bullet enters the back of his head and then blows out the right front side of his head. And that blows him back into the left. But what's happening there is the momentum of the bullet is transferred, and the blast out is propelling him back. It's going through his brain, which is the hub of the central nervous system, and that causes muscle spasms. The strongest muscle we have in our body is the back. His back tightens up. His back is in a brace. This is why he's standing up stiff the whole time. He can't crouch. So when he gets hit in the throat, like, he's probably trying to get down. He's probably trying to, like, lay down, but he can't because of the back brace. He can't bend his torso. So he's stuck in this upright position. And that's why, like, when he finally goes over into Jackie's lap, he looks like a tree falling, stiff-backed, and he just kind of timbers over. Yes, the whole thing with Oswald being the lone gunman is, people say, what is it that they say? There's a line in JFK. I forget how they say it. Something like, 3 shots with a rifled, with a scope, and the last shot is the perfect shot. Okay, so I've got an answer to that one too. And you'll have to just listen to the episode on November 22nd to find out what that answer is. There was a shot from the front. What shot from the rear would make the head go back into the left? Well, I think I just kind of explained it, and I will show you more of that later. Also, distance. Now, I haven't been to Dealey Plaza, but Jen and Mike were at Dealey Plaza, and they said the same thing I've heard everybody who's been to Dealey Plaza say. It's much more compact than I imagined. And this goes with focal lengths on cameras. They distort what you see. So the camera does not see what the eye sees. I think the eye sees close to a 50 millimeter. I think we're like 52 millimeter. So like 50 millimeter lenses are the closest lenses out there, or so I've been told, to the human vision. So there's many other focal lengths, and those all present things in a different light. So have you ever seen a picture of, that someone might have taken on the battlefield, and maybe they got a shot of the like 72nd Pennsylvania Monument and the Pennsylvania Monument behind that and the round tops behind that? It doesn't all line up perfectly like that, but let's say it's something like that, where all of these things that are spread out look very close together in the photograph. That's because they used a long lens, and the long lens compresses everything in the shot, and it distorts distance. So my point is that most of us have not seen Dealey Plaza in person. Most of us have seen it in film or photographs, and those deceive, not on purpose. They're not trying to manipulate, and some do, but it's just by their nature, photographs are deceptive because of the focal length. So you go there, everybody says it's so much closer than I thought. Oswald is up on the 6th floor of a building. There's an FBI film that they did when they investigated the assassination, and they had a camera up in the 6th floor window, and they had a car that's supposed to be the limousine going down the street and turning onto Elm. I think it was on Main Street, and then it turned onto Elm. And as it turns, the camera follows the car and looks down on it, and it passes in the mid-ground of the shot. There is a traffic light. And the FBI didn't catch this in the investigation, but people caught it later on who reviewed the film. There is a hole. You know how traffic lights sometimes have a black fin in a rectangle shape around the lights themselves? One of those had a hole in it, and it lined up with where the rifle was and so in other words, Oswald tried to take his first shot there, but it was too close, and it went through the fin of the traffic light, missing the car. But possibly that's the one that caused the ricochet that hit the guy in the under the overpass. Possibly, I don't know. But so the car continues to move away. Oswald reloads. He re-aims his shot. He takes the second shot. It hits JFK in the back, near the base of the neck. And then that goes through JFK and hits Connolly. Now somebody's going to say, well, what about Connolly and the bullet zigzagging all over the place? I'll poke holes in that too. So it goes through and hits Connolly. Third shot hits him in the head. People go, the third shot must be from the grassy knoll, back into the left, all that stuff. But really, if you think about it, and remember, like when you listen to the show, if you're a patron and you listen to the shows like we do about the environmental history of the Civil War and, logistical things, and I always make sure to pause so that we all kind of really internalize the point that little things make big differences in historical events. Well, in all events, really. And so, like, if your men are hungry and they're on the march, that's going to make a difference than guys who are well fed and on the march, guys who are well shod and on the march, or a river swelling and you can't cross the river, you can't put your pontoons out or whatever the case may be. Well, that's going to affect the move of the army. So these little things, blah, blah, blah. So Oswald is zeroing in. I think he's aiming for the head every time, but he's nervous. Let's not forget, he's a human being, and he's about to assassinate the most powerful man in the free world. And he's a loser. he knows he's a loser. You don't think that you're going to do something that's going to screw you up in that situation? So I think he took the shot too soon when they were rounding the corner. And then he had to give it time to get some distance between them so he could get a better shot for the second shot. He took it, and he was like, I'm close, but no cigar. Reloads, takes it again, finally hits him where he was aiming to hit him the whole time, right in the head. That's my guess, because I'm bringing the human element into it. These people are not cartoon characters. They're fully fledged human beings, and you have to consider that. And so and then the whole grassy knoll thing, we'll get into that too in the show. Oswald may have been shooting also from the depository. I highly doubt it, but there was definitely someone shooting from the front. No, I'm saying there definitely wasn't, and I'll get into that later too. Was watching Mickey Mouse 1 minute, Walter Cronkite the next, not a happy kid. Oh man, yeah, I can't imagine what that would be like. I hope we never have to experience that in my lifetime, but yeah, that's got to be the weirdest thing. Always thought Ruby believed he'd become a national hero afterwards. He was unhinged also. Yeah, I agree. I'm not even sure. He might have thought that after he did it, but I don't think that was premeditated. So I don't really know if he had that thought beforehand. But yeah, there's some good stuff on. You should really go on Audible and get that book, Case Closed. I'm re-listening to it now for like the 4th time, and I mean, every time I listen to it, there's details that I didn't catch the previous times, and really just add to the whole thing. But there's some stuff in there about Jack Ruby too, and what a nut he was. Yes, Dealey Plaza is a lot smaller in person than it looks in pictures and film. I was surprised. James Thompson says, I got a picture of the 72nd PA, had a relative in the 72nd PA. All right, nice. Jim says, Carlos Hathcock, the legendary Marine sniper, tried to recreate the shooting from the schoolbook depository and couldn't do it. Yeah, I don't buy that. I really don't buy that. I think that was for sensational purposes. There's a whole generation of people who refused to believe that Oswald did it. And he's from that generation. And all those experiments, the congressional hearings on assassinations or whatever they called that, first of all, that was in the 1970s. Let's not forget, the 60s and the 70s were like today. They're a time of mass insanity and hysteria. And people were believing anything. So, like, I'm not surprised that people believed that back then, because it was like they were swept up in this, and Vietnam, like nobody trusted the government back then, or few people trusted the government back then, let's put it like that, or maybe a bunch did, but there was a growing sense of distrust, just like we have today. And so I kind of look at those congressional hearings as the government kind of appeasing the suspicious masses, because they never said there definitely was, if I recall. I think they said there's a high probability that there was a conspiracy. But a lot of the evidence that was presented at those hearings has been debunked with better technology. And I think that's the thing that we have to be willing to accept, is that as technology improves, a lot of things that we used to think were true based on old technology are not. The dictaphone recording that supposedly has the gunshots recorded in it from the police radio, that was later debunked because the time that was the time and place where the recording took place wasn't even in Dealey Plaza at the time of the assassination. There's another one. Oh yeah, that's a good one. There's a documentary on Amazon Prime called Conspiracy Theorists Lie. Watch that, and it'll make you feel like you've been played a fool if you fall for the conspiracy stuff, like I did, by the way. JFK, by the way, Oliver Stone's JFK, still one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a great movie, but it's full of shit. Tom Canavan says, stand on a little round top and look towards Devil's Den. That is a long shot for Civil War muskets and rifles, let alone uphill, yet men were killed up there from the den. That's a good point. Jesse the bicuspid Ventura, he had his conspiracy show, and I think they tried to also recreate that shot and couldn't. I don't buy that. I don't buy it. First of all, if they were, let's think of this, like the Jesse Ventura show, right? It's a conspiracy show. If they were able to recreate the shot, it wouldn't have made it into the show because it defeats the purpose. The show is about having conspiracies. So why would they run an experiment and have the result fly in the face of everything they're working towards? So they're not going to do that. A television show is not a scientific experiment. I don't know the circumstances of Hathcock, but I don't know. I doubt. I just have doubts about that. And then also, okay, let's say it's an impossible shot. I think it's 80 yards. I think from the window to the X on the road, I think is 80 yards or 100 yards, less than a football field. Now, it is a moving target, but it's a slow-moving target. And again, he's zeroing in. There's also freak accidents. Like, in other words, let's say that's an impossible shot, and I used air quotes saying that. Nothing's impossible, first of all. And secondly, Oswald could have totally messed up and hit him in the head. Maybe he just wanted to wing him. Maybe he didn't want to kill him, and maybe he was aiming for the back, but that last shot hit him in the back of the head. Who the hell knows? There's a million ways things could go. Nothing in life is black and white, and things don't happen in a vacuum. And more people know more about, the thing about conspiracy theorists is that they know more about everything that happened on that one day than they know about what they did in the last hour. But they don't know as much about what led up to that one day in the 23 years of Oswald's life beforehand. And that to me is very important. You got to get into that stuff. Today is worse. I don't believe anything they tell me now. No, I don't either. They lost my faith after the whole coronavirus thing. I'm done. Worst movie for accuracy, JFK or Gettysburg? Oh, JFK. By far. The only truth in JFK is that JFK was assassinated. The rest of it is just bullshit. And you have to, that's the other thing too. Look into Jim Garrison. Read about him. Look at all the scandal prior to the JFK stuff in his career. The guy was not a very honest guy. He was kind of like a huckster. He's a nut too. All these people involved in this thing are nuts. Mannlicher Carcano isn't a great rifle, both accurate and reliable wise, but it'll kill. Exactly. 100 yards is a possible good shot distance. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. But so this is going to be fun. We're going to have fun with this. And yeah, I love that you guys were pushing back on some of this stuff, because it makes me think and hone my arguments. And now I have to go and look up some of them and make sure that I was getting things right. But yeah, it's fun. All right, let's do a little more driving before I let you go. Also, by the way, on the subject of Oswald having Maggie's drawers, that's not what his Marine Corps records shows. And I forget what the argument is, but that's covered in Gerald Posner's book, Case Closed. Highly recommend it. Very interesting. So what is it? get Case Closed on Audible, or buy it if you prefer to hold a book in your hand and read it, and you have the time. God bless you for that. Conspiracy Theorists Lie on Amazon Prime, and Truth is Our Only Client on Amazon Prime. They make very convincing arguments that Oswald was the lone gunman. Now, could there have been a conspiracy to cover up certain things? Yeah, look, the CIA, the FBI, the Secret Service all failed that day. They did not protect the chief executive of the United States of America. They failed, especially the Secret Service. So, if I were them, I'd probably doctor the documents so that it didn't look like we failed. I would probably not give out as much information, and maybe even be the first person to propose conspiracy theories so that we can muddy up the water, so that if anybody ever did come around and say, wait a second, these guys effed up, it's their fault, like this was all preventable, which I guess could be debated as well, but people would make this argument. By that point, there's so much confusion thrown into the whole mix that nobody would know what to believe. And I think that's why they released those documents lately that kind of indicate the CIA might have had something to do with it, because nobody knows what to believe now anyway. And nobody trusts the CIA. Nobody trusts the government anymore. Well, few do. Insane people do. And so it's like, okay, you're putting this out now. Like, when I heard that, I'm like, yeah, what's their ulterior motive here? Like, what's really good? Like, I just don't trust them anymore. We've all caught them in too many lies. It's a shame. I used to be very proud of our institutions. They did it to themselves, folks. No one else did it to them. They did it to themselves. All right, so that'll be November 22nd at 7 p.m. It'll be a lot of fun. Oswald did it. Sometimes things are meant to be. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like people have such a hard time believing that a broke loser like Oswald could take down a rich president and war hero like JFK. But what they forget is both Oswald and JFK are human beings. And human beings can kill other human beings, and it doesn't matter stature in society. It can be done. And it has been done over and over and over again for as long as man has been around. All right, let's see. Where should we go? James, we're going to do it at 7 p.m. I don't know if I'm going to sprinkle calls in throughout. It depends on, I guess, how many people we have in the queue. But I'll either sprinkle calls in throughout, or I will save them for the end. It's probably best to sprinkle them in throughout. And I can go, like, because I have a screener, so if you can clearly speak what you want, what point you want to make, then I can go through and cherry pick them according to what we're talking about at the moment, pull you out. So I wouldn't necessarily pick you in order of appearance. That way it would be more relevant to the current conversation. All right, let's turn... Yeah, see, Jumpmaster says, major cover your ass operation. Seen it in my time over and over again. Yes. See, so this is the thing. There's enough people roaming around in society who've worked for the government at various levels, but they know how it works. And they'll tell you, yeah, cover your ass thing. Like, they do it. So I wouldn't put it past them to have just muddied the water so that the last place we look is them for failing to do their job. And really, that's what it is. It's a failure of all these agencies and institutions that are supposed to protect all of us, including and probably especially the president, and they failed. But also, like, okay, they failed, but how many people? Well, no, never mind. I was gonna. It's not like it wasn't in the historical record, but it was like, well, as with anything, right, with human beings, is that things always have to get progressively worse before you really, do put in place all of the measures required to prevent it happening again. And I hope at least, the Secret Service has everything figured out now so that we don't have to go through that again. But you know what? In this day and age, everything's so crazy. Who knows? Who knows? We're on top of Devil's Den. Excusez-moi. Well, that's one good point, James. No president would ride in a convertible today. Yeah. I'm surprised they ever did. Oh, and then that's another thing conspiracy theorists say. They took off the bubble top. The bubble top is not bulletproof. It might have deflected a bullet, or it might have changed the course of a bullet, or weakened its speed and maybe only wounded JFK, if not missed him or whatever. But the point is, it wasn't bulletproof. They took it off because the forecast had said it was going to clear up, that the rain was going to go away. It rained. Where were they earlier? They went from, was it Houston? I forget where they were. They were somewhere else in Texas earlier that day, and they needed the bubble top because it was raining. But the rain was forecasted to clear up by the time they got to Dallas. So it wasn't the morning. It was the day before. I don't remember. But wherever they were before Dallas, they needed the bubble top to protect them from the rain, not bullets. So that's another thing. Conspiracy theorists know that you don't know, and so all they do is they're creative writers. I mean, honestly, it's the greatest cottage industry ever created, especially if you're a creative writer, because all you need to do is have a creative mind, a suspicious mind, and look at evidence that's there, documents that are there, and cherry pick words and phrases and pieces of information, and then put a spin on them. Just that raised eyebrow. What is this person doing? Oh my God. I know, we're at a park and it's a tourist area and they're supposed to be, I know, but I'm passing through here, okay, people? Yeah, anyway. The men must see us today. Nice drive. Thank you. Cover your ass, shift the blame. Yep. They were in San Antonio. Thank you. Then Fort Worth. There you go. San Antone. Monday morning quarterback. Are you referring to the conspiracy theorists? But yes, they are. Well, they're Monday morning quarterbacks with a sinister intent. Their intention is to sow distrust and division, and also then make a lot of money. I have no problem with anybody making a lot of money. I think we all should try to make a lot of money, because there's going to be a day where you won't be able to earn a cent because you'll be old and decrepit, and no one will hire you anyway, and you won't have the energy to work. And so you better make a lot of money, because you're going to need it in the end. Nothing's getting cheaper. So these people that I don't understand, these people that like treat making money like it's the same as being a prostitute or something. Like I don't understand that. And I understand it. They can't make money. That's what it is. They don't have whatever it takes to figure out a way to make the living they want to make, and they get jealous and envious of people who have figured it out. All right, we've got something going on here. Can I go right, or? Thank you. Today, with cell phone cameras, there would be thousands of videos of it. Yeah, and even still, you wouldn't be able to tell what really happened. There are other angles of the JFK assassination. None of them are as close and detailed as the Pruder film, but I think there's like a dozen or so of them from all different areas. There's even one that shows movement in the window where Oswald shot from, and it's prior to the presidential limousine arriving. The opposite angle of Zapruder, from a distance, like in the middle of the president, you just see him kind of jerk back, and then the limo speed off. I can't remember the name of all of them. I think of them as Nix, N-I-X. That might have been one of them, but there's a lot of them out there. Notice most of them weren't there at the time. None of them were there at the time. I think Mark Lane, who was, I think he was the first guy to like start this conspiracy shit. He was Marguerite Oswald, so Oswald's mother's attorney, and he started with the stuff with the CIA. Oswald was part of the CIA, and the mother said that. And there's even a press conference they did with the mother, and she says, "My son, Lee Harvey Oswald, is an American hero, not for shooting the president, but for his service with the Marine Corps and the CIA." But she was a lunatic, this woman. She was absolutely insane. She's like Mrs. Bates. Like, that's Marguerite Oswald. She's Norma Bates. And look how Norman turned out. And that's what Oswald is. And it's kind of funny, because didn't Psycho come out in 62? This is like very close to the assassination. Anyway, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to doing this, because I love talking about this stuff. It's so much fun. Which is really kind of sick and twisted that we have fun talking about the assassination of a human being. But he was a politician. Am I right, folks? I guess it doesn't really matter. Oh, that's terrible. But it's true. I can't believe identical Joe Pesci's fake eyebrows look to David Ferrie's fake eyebrows. Well, you know, there's a school of thought that a fake eyebrow is a fake eyebrow is a fake eyebrow, but that's not true. I never saw JFK. The David Ferrie character to me, I was like, there's no way this was real. Like, I thought it was all made up. And then, no, lo and behold, David Ferrie is a real person, and he was just as weird as they made him out to be there. Now, David Ferrie, I don't know too much about him or Clay Shaw, because that's all That's later, and that's Jim Garrison, and Jim Garrison is not a reliable source. So for those of you who don't know, Jim Garrison was a New Orleans district attorney at the time of the assassination and for many years after. And he had heard on, well, I don't know, I never read his book, but JFK is based on that, and Crossfire by Jim Mars, I believe. And so he's made aware of the assassination, and then, in a news report, he hears that Oswald had visited New Orleans. And so he tells his team to look into that. And the name David Ferry comes up. And then they interview David Ferry, and he's like, I don't know any Oswald. Whoever told you that's mistaken, blah, blah, blah. And Garrison kind of smells a rat with Ferry and starts looking into Ferry, and then keeps hearing this name, Clay Bertrand, and apparently Clay Bertrand was a gay alias that this prominent businessman known as Clay Shaw used when he would go into the secret gay places and do secret gay things or whatever, because you couldn't be out about that and be a prominent businessman back in those days, I guess. And so he then becomes suspicious about him, and all this stuff. And he actually arrests and prosecutes Shaw for conspiracy to commit murder or something like that of the President of the United States, and goes to trial and loses because his witnesses were ridiculous. But it almost seems like he used the trial as an excuse to throw out his theories about the assassination. And, or again, at least that's the way the movie portrays it. That could be poetic license. But I really should read his book. I think it's called On the Trail of the Assassins. I haven't read it, but I'm sure I've consumed most of the points that he makes in it elsewhere, but not all in one collected work. Wow, you talk about JFK, you lose like half your audience. I thought people would stick around more for that one. The construction crew was a CIA stakeout. They're listening to you. Head for falling waters and safety. Oh, please, they're listening all the time. That grammar was atrocious. It's not the grammar, it's the spelling. On a side but related note, we're heading to Miami shortly, and we're going to visit the Bay of Pigs Museum and check out the monument. Well, that's cool, and it's not totally unrelated because, oh, I'm sorry, no, you didn't say unrelated, you said related. Yes, it is related. Not just because of the Bay of Pigs, but apparently there were Miami connections to the assassination, if you believe the conspiracy theorists. What are you doing? Are you going, or what are you doing? I'm letting you go. You have the right of way. Thank you. See, my patience for... whatever. That's my New Jersey coming out. Now I forgot what I was saying. On a side note, did the American Battlefield Trust ever acquire the buffet? Tear that bastard down. I thought they did. I didn't know it was up in the air. I thought that was a done deal. I don't know. I'm believe it or not, I really truly do appreciate the. I don't know if it's faith or just your view, people's view of me and what I might be powerful enough to do or privy to. But I gotta be honest. These bigger institutions like the Trust or Journey Through Hallowed Ground or whoever, I think if they see me at all, it's more of a novelty, not anything serious or respectable. So, but I appreciate that you guys think that I would know these things. I don't. I mean, I guess I could find it out without, having insider knowledge, but I don't want to find it out if I don't have it as an insider knowledge. I want the inside track. I want to know before you do or the papers do. And until I get to that point, I don't really care. But as far as I'm aware, it's a done deal. Pickett's is moving down to Boyd's Bear. And, it's going to be torn down. I mean, I think it's closed, right? They're not even open. And, I mean, it doesn't look like they've been really mowing the lawn or working on the landscaping. So I think it's done. But I don't know for sure. We're going to do a little drive through the first day's battlefield, and then I'm going to go home, have a show to edit, and see, even on my vacation, I do work. That's why you should go to patreon.com/addressingnewsburg and become a patron today, because even my vacations are not vacations. For you. Yep, there was a Miami plot to kill JFK and also a Chicago plot. Yeah, well, I wasn't even talking about that. There was, I think the guy's name was Hilario Del Valle or something like that, who was somehow affiliated with Cubans that were in New Orleans that met with Clay Shaw and David Ferry. And I don't know. It's so convoluted. See, that's the thing. It's like, it's such great fiction, right? If someone made up the story of the JFK assassination and made all those connections that Garrison makes, it would be a fascinating novel or a television series or a movie or whatever, right? But fiction is not reality, and I don't mean truth, I mean reality. Like, reality is that the more people you have involved, the less it's going to work. You know the old saying, too many cooks spoil the broth. My grandmother used to have a little thing on the wall in the kitchen that said, too many cooks spoil the broth, ... in some kitchens, but not mine. I like help. So, but too many cooks do spoil the broth. So if you're going to have, first of all, inter and intra-government collusion. So you've got our government agencies colluding with each other, and then you've got our government colluding with Cuba and the Soviet to be operating like that. Okay, that's fine with me. I don't care. These people together, and with bed confessions and stuff, but it's a deathbed confession. What condition are you in? Like, what's your mental state as dying? What's the veracity of? How can we trust what someone who's so death confessions, to me at least, until some person who's much smarter than me comes along and says, no, you could believe what people say on their deathbed. They're not reliable to me. So that doesn't mean anything that E. Howard Hunt admitted on his deathbed that he had something to do with the JFK assassination. The guy was a spook. Why wouldn't he say that? Why wouldn't his last act on earth be to further confuse and F over the American public? Because he's made a career out of it. So, you know, I just love how these people, you know, people are like, oh, he's a liar, he works for this, you can't be trusted for that. But then they say something you want to hear and suddenly it's believable. I say, once a liar, always a liar. Just like they say, once a cheater, always a cheater. Or once a Marine, always a Marine. Or as they say in the movie JFK, once O&I, always O&I. And I don't know if anybody ever really said that, or if that's thing they put in the movie to make you think that there's this secret cabal of whatever. Oh, I love talking about that stuff. I think I actually like talking about that more than I like talking about the Civil War. Because there's something, you know why? Because there's a debate. There's a debate with JFK. The Civil War, we pretty much know what happened, right? So all you're doing is kind of just regurgitating facts. But as far as like making your mind up, yeah, there's certain things where, you know, like Longstreet's countermarch, we don't know a lot about. Or Captain Johnston's ride, we don't know a lot about. So we have to kind of use our brains and do some figuring and look for clues and try to figure that stuff out. And that's fun. But the JFK thing, there's two factions, and both factions have what they call evidence. Well, one side has evidence, the other one has, I like to call it questidence. They're like questions about evidence, but not actually putting forth any evidence. They're putting forward evidence already put forward by another entity, in this case, the United States government. So, yeah. So when I hear conspiracy theorists say, let's look at the evidence. I'm like, well, you're not looking at evidence. You are. You're looking at evidence, but you're questioning it. And you're calling your question evidence. Your question is only evidence of your moronic mind at work. I'm turning around here because I meant to go. The simplest answer is usually the correct answer. And that's really why, at the end of the day, I think it was Oswald. Because let's look at his behavior. Well, no, we're going to get into this on the show. But look at his behavior for the rest of that day. Leading up to that day, that morning, the rest of the day, J.D. Tippett, what he says when he gets caught in the movie theater, how he behaves when the lights come on in the movie theater versus how everybody else behaves. There's a lot there to show that Oswald was guilty. Guilty AF, as the kids say these days. By the way, it didn't come with a slip, but if you're out there and you sent one of the chairs that we have on our wish list for the waiting room in the new studio, it came yesterday in the mail. Thank you very much. Bring it over to the studio later today and put it together. That will come in handy. We got like a little sitting area right when you walk in, and I want to get chairs to put there. So someone sent one of the two that we requested, which is nice. And then I just got to find a little end table or something to put in between, or not. Maybe I don't need that, right? We don't need that. Jonathan Hamilton just became a patron. Thank you very much, Jonathan. If you're watching, if you're not watching, I'll send you an email thanking you in a bit. So either way, thank you very much. Jonathan's great. He went over to patreon.com/addressing Gettysburg and he said, Matt, I know how much money gas costs these days, and I sure do enjoy these visits that you, or these drive arounds that you do with us in the mornings. And golly jeepers me oh my, I'd hate to see you go bankrupt just because you're spending so much money on gas for my entertainment. So I went over to patreon.com/addressing Gettysburg to do that. Or like someone said yesterday, I donated $20 to you through your live video thing because I know how much gas costs. You know, it's the same. They know how much gas costs, these people, and God damn it, there's some wonderful people, and golly jeepers, me oh my, we really do appreciate them here at Addressing Gettysburg. So thank you for that, Jonathan. Thank you that the lady whose name escapes me from yesterday, and a couple people the few times before that. Thank you. Not only do I appreciate it, but little Major the puppy appreciates it, because now I don't have to choose between her food and gas, because gas will always win, because I need to be able to be mobile, you know. So save a puppy, become a patron over at patreon.com/Addressing Gettysburg. All right, so let's see, where do we leave off? On a side, okay, I got that. On a side note, yep, there's also Miami Connection. Pretty sure they got it. They might move down the street further. I don't know what that's in. Oh, yeah. Pickett's been closed for a while now. I've heard you're the Emperor of Gettysburg. I am the Emperor of the Gettysburg Underground. People who are kind of fed up with the way things have been going secretly tell me that, you know, keep up what you're doing, we're with you type of stuff. But but they say the powers that be, they feel threatened by you, which is why they don't include you in things. And I think that's ridiculous, to be honest with you. I see myself as an idiot. I don't see myself as anything threatening. But hey, people thought Malcolm X was threatening, and he had a big following. Wait, I don't know what that was supposed to compare myself to Malcolm X. I don't know if that really works. But, you know. Your vacation today turned into a JFK-cation. JFK-cation, excuse me. Yeah, which is nice. I like that. It's amazing how, like, when you study one thing far too much, like every day, all day, eventually it's harder to study it, because it's weird. It's like the more I study something, the more it smooths the wrinkles in my brain, and I don't retain knowledge. But then the minute I find something else interesting and read a little bit about that, or in the case of JFK, revisit something that I've read a ton about, suddenly I feel those wrinkles start to form again. And so hopefully it'll make me easier to get back into Gettysburg when it's time to start recording again. Jim says, the first time I went to Dealey Plaza like 20 years ago, I walked behind the fence and I ran into Robert Grodin. I couldn't believe it. He was cool. Yeah, but he was one of the, he's one of the original nuts. Because first of all, I remember, because he was one of the first ones that analyzed the film, right? But he's not a film analyst. Like, he's not any kind of analyst, if I recall his previous experience at that point. But he did make a name for himself. And for that, I admire that. You'll love Thompson's book then. It reads like an attorney presenting a case, which makes sense since the guy's an attorney. Some may not like it. No, I would like that. That is cool. All right, speaking of attorneys, I have to go take a shower. So you guys have yourself a good day. I'll try to do as many of these this week as I can. We'll drive around and things. I went up to Carlisle last night for dinner, and about halfway up there, I thought I would do one. Because you, in case you've never seen that drive, it's a very pretty drive. But then I got a phone call, and then by the time I got there, the pretty part was over, and I was in the city, so it wouldn't have worked. And then on my way home, of course, it was dark, so that wouldn't have made any sense for you either. But next time I take a little trip like that, maybe that's what I'll do. Anyway, in the meantime, thank you all for joining. Thank you for your comments and engagement, and I will talk to you next time.